So we called him the father of genetics. He discovered, so using pea plant genetics, he discovered 3 laws of heredity. Okay, so the deal is he didn't know anything about DNA. He just knew there's something that's passed between this organism and this organism to make a baby. And he knew if y'all have any relatives or if you're part of a family that grows any crops at all, if you have a small plot that you farm or if you have a larger scale farm, you know that it has still to make fruit or vegetables, you're going to have to be able to cross them. Okay, so in a greenhouse, they literally take little paintbrushes and they'll take the pollen from this flower and they'll dust it on this flower, and then they'll take this pollen and dust it over here. They're helping them have sex. Well, that's what he did. And what he noticed was every time he took a purebred tall and dusted its pollen with a purebred short and back and forth, what they always, those plants grow up to be? Tall. So he discovered, we already know, dominance and recessiveness. Dominance. And that's really where we stopped, because we said, well, there's some traits that are dominant over others, or some alleles that are dominant over others. So if it's height, tall dominant over short, or purple flowers are dominant over white flowers. But what he noticed was if you're a tall plant, you don't necessarily always have purple flowers, green peas, and brown peas. Now, all tall plants have those traits. You could be tall and have yellow peas and be wrinkled, have wrinkled peas and white flowers. Just like if you look around the room, if we have, say, all people that are 5'6", all people that are 5'6" don't have brown eyes, have size 12 shoe, can roll their tongue, and have eyebrows darker than their hair. We have all these different genes, and they're actually inherited separately. So that's what he said, is just because you have this gene doesn't mean you're always going to have this gene. So this is independent assortment. So he said that these genes are inherited independently of each other. There's not a buy one, get one free. So, okay, all you brown-eyed people, you're always going to have black hair, pale skin, and you're always going to be 6'6". All those genes, why is that not true? You all have different genes, and each trait, those genes are inherited separately from each other. So that's what he said, is that the genes have alleles for each trait are inherited separately from each other. So that means when crossing over takes place, then you give him more different combinations. Because if you take this, and it's already crossed over, this is my destroyed chromosome, but the fact that it already crossed over, each of these is like a gene, then sometimes do you think when they cross over, big chunks of genes could actually be crossed over? Or do you think they cross over and each little gene is separated? Do you think they could all sometimes, like, kind of big chunks actually cross over? He didn't know that. So we find that there are some genes that are linked. They're called kind of a buy one, get one free. So if you get this gene, you're usually going to get that. It's pretty likely you're going to get this gene too. So a good example of that are gingers. Okay, so if someone's a ginger, y'all know what I'm talking about? Redheaded. What do all redheaded people typically have always? Freckles. So what we find is those genes are inherited. They're right next to each other, So it's kind of like a package deal. If you're a ginger, you're just going to have freckles. So you usually also don't have dark skin either, right? Usually it's paler skin. So all of those are kind of linked together. He didn't know anything about that. All right, but he did also say that that sperm, that pollen that's being dusted over here on this flower to get to the egg, inside that is not all the genes needed to make that plant. You need both. So he said that when pollen or sperm is made, go back, and when eggs are made, the genes are separated or segregated from each other. So instead of giving your offspring all of your genes, what do you give to them in your sperm and egg? Half. Yeah. So during meiosis, when you make your sperm and egg, the alleles separate for each trait, giving half of the DNA in the gamete. So what's the gamete again? Sex cell. You're right. It's just easier for me to write one word than sex cell or sperm and egg. So here's the picture for that, because when I've written that down in the other classes, they kind of stared at me and said, well, this is what it's like. So here's the parent. You either can give this in your sperm, or you can give this in your sperm. So when we do our problems, that's why we do it that way. We say, here are your options. They segregated. So that's how that works. And sometimes you'll see a question about those laws. Definitely dominance and recessiveness, but you could see the other ones too. So I think it's segregate, separate, and then independent. Those genes are separate from each other. Okay, if you're independent, you don't have to be just connected to somebody. You know, you have enough confidence to be able to step out on your own. So that's the Mendel part. Where the new problems come in are kind of fun, because these, you learn the key and you don't have to figure it out. Like heterozygous, homozygous, you won't hear any of that stuff. And we start looking at some diseases. We look at flowers, look at chickens, we look at hairless dogs. I mean, we start looking at some crazy traits. So they'll either give you the type of inheritance, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's those flowers. And I give you all the keys. So all you have to do is know what key goes with which type of inheritance. You'll see what I'm saying, how it works out. Okay, is everybody good? Because I'm going to change it from this because I have pictures on another slide. Okay. Rebecca, you good? Yeah. So just that. So I'm going to get rid of this so I can label it on it. All right. So if you were somebody who learns by color, you can use those in your notes. Oh my God, I don't know what happened. So that's what we did here. That helps you. These cats are flying across the thing. All right, so this is called incomplete dominance. Okay, so here's the heading, exceptions to the rules. This is what Mendel did not know. So if y'all see Mendelian inheritance, that means dominance recessive, straight up, that's it. But we find that's not always the case. There's other types of inheritance patterns. So the first one, and the only one we're going to do today, is incomplete dominance, okay? All right, if something's incomplete, what does that mean?
Not done.
It's not done. Right. So look at this picture. If I tell you these flowers are inherited, their color, because it's incompletely dominant, what do you think I mean by that?
They didn't get some energy. What is it?
So instead of a red and a white, and I get in red, what do we
You
get?
got more down there.
Well, what's the other option I got? Pink. I got a blend. So red wasn't totally dominant over white. So far it's been like purple and white. I didn't get lavender, purple or white. But now if you take red and you cross it with a white, some flowers you get pink. You don't get red. So that's an example of incomplete dominance. But as far as the definition goes, it means that in the heterozygote, so in the heterozygote, you will get a blended phenotype or a mixed looking. So blended phenotype is produced. So we'll do the key for it and for each one of these. We're going to do one for people, one for cats, and one for flowers. Okay, so move that down. So in the heterozygote, a blended phenotype is produced. So your example first is the flowers. And we're going to call them snapdragons. It could be, those are impatiens, but there's different types that do these. Snapdragon flowers. Okay, so big R is red. What do you think white is?
Oh,
The genotype.
okay.
Yeah. And so I want to tell you that little r is white. So what is pink?
Big R, little R.
There you go. And the heterozygote, you get a blend. So big R, little r is pink. So we have big R, little r, big R, little r. So all the visual people, hopefully you'll be able to picture that. So you'll, the glowing yellow on that picture. So think big R red, little r white, and then big R is pink. Heterozygote getting the blend. All right, here's a cat one. So for all the cat people out there, I apologize ahead of time because I'm not a cat person.
Wait, so how would you know how to work these out?
I'll show you. These are kind of easier in a way. So it'll say that color is inherited incompletely, or is incomplete dominant. That is an incomplete dominant trait, and so it'll kind of tip you off and tell you, and then you'll know, oh yeah, this is the red, white, pink flower. But cats, what do you notice about these cats? Okay. True. All right, what's something else you see that's different?
I see something
If
that
you say so.
the darker skin color.
All right, well, look at their tails.
One is long, well, one is kind of straight. Wait, one is kind of one is curvy. Wait, the middle one.
The middle one doesn't have a tail. You're right. Check this out. Move all this stuff out of the way. Look at him. That's literally, no, a tail's not tucked under there. Has anybody seen that cat? It's a Manx cat. Stefan last period said that his cousin has one of those. She was like, oh my gosh. I said, yep. And it looks like a little bobtail.
Yeah, Trey got one.
And you think that it's been cut off. Something's happened to its tail. No, it was just born that way. So it just has this little nub. And so it's called a tailless. So it was kind of like a bobtail. So get rid of that. Make it smaller.
Stuff like that.
It's different. So this guy has a long tail. So big L is long. And that would be the kind of tail that if a cat comes rubbing up against you, it's like that tail is really long and it kind of wraps around your leg. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Really like a long tail. I know, and I want to go. Then no tail is little l. So this is the medium-sized tail.
So
It's one of each, or average. And next door, my neighbors have a long-tailed and they have the medium tail. I haven't seen any of the no-tails. So technically, if you have two medium size or length tail cats, could you produce a tailless cat? If you had two of these?
Well, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about that. You could see that. If you have two cats that are like this, you could probably produce a tailless cat. The last one that we wrote down was in humans, and it's hair. Human hair texture. So if you have curly hair, you're big C, big C. For all of you that at the scalp, you've got a curly hair, not wavy, but just curly. If yours is wavier, you're going to be big C, little c. And then my hair being straight as a stick, C, little c. So my husband's hair is this, mine's that. So we don't have, and we have two kids that have wavy hair. It's only because he gave them the good hair. Otherwise, you know, we won't have curly. So as far as the problems go, on the cover of this new packet you just got, we're going to do one, set one up together, and we'll see if we have time to do the other one. If not, that's one of your homework problems. There's two problems you have to do for homework.
Wait, what's that one look like right now?
Yeah, we're going to set it up so that way we'll know what to do. Yeah, we'll be able to do the one. All right, so let's look at this one real quick. The bell's getting ready to ring. Let's just make sure everybody's good with what you want to do with it.
Because I got a feeling that the hybrid is working different.
It's really not bad though. And they're telling, the only thing I'll say is look what they're using for whites. They have these little slash marks. I would use little R's and use that big R, little R, like what we did.
Oh, like instead of a little R.
I wouldn't use the slash. All right, so y'all have 1 and 3.
Did we do the whole paper?
No, it's 1 and 3. Yep.
Hey, you made
just
a
those-
song. The man's not hot, dude. What's it called? I've seen on YouTube. Type in man's not hot.